generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be, the Vuber way.
Doc Rob, the concierge for better living.
My guests say Razzie Berry. We're talking about nature, naturopathic medicine, as well as the concept of prevention and preventing disease.
Empower people to live a naturopathic lifestyle, get to know your body, understand its rhythms, remove toxins, and use natural alternatives whenever possible. 90 to 95% of cancers are due to environment and lifestyle risk factors. I mean, that's a huge number. That means that cancer is preventable.
The concierge for better living with Doc Rob. Only on CannabisRadio.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
You're going to find really wonderful, well-meaning, well-spoken people, and then people that are just batshit crazy.
Okay, maybe you're high, too.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
It's time for the Cannabis Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Cannabis Radio News is now available exclusively at CannabisRadio.com. Now your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is Cannabis Radio News.
This is your Cannabis Radio News for Wednesday, September 28th, 2016. A new WBZ UMass poll shows increasing support among a majority of voters for legalizing marijuana in Massachusetts. Question 4 is, quote, an initiative petition for a law relative to the regulation and taxation of marijuana, end quote, that is supported by 53% of the 700 voters surveyed, with just 40% opposed. All demographics support legalization except voters over age 55. Voters were also asked about aspects of legalization that bother them. Toking in public would bother 61% of respondents, 52% worry about public pot advertising, and 41% are leery of a pot shop in their neighborhood. WBZ's poll shows 3 points more support than a WBUR poll released 2 weeks ago that showed 50% support and 45% opposition. A marijuana industry group is asking Oregon lawmakers to delay October 1st deadlines for the state's new pot regulations by at least 30 days. The Oregonian reports that the Oregon Cannabis Association last week asked the Joint Committee that oversees marijuana rules for extra time to meet regulations about how pot is tested, packaged, and labeled. Association attorney Amy Margolis said many businesses simply aren't ready to comply and can't afford to shut down while they get everything in order. The October 1st deadline for implementing new policies to address public health and safety concerns about recreational marijuana focus on testing and screening for pesticides at accredited and licensed labs. The new rules are far more extensive than what the state requires now. Delaying the rule would mean marijuana producers and processors could continue to take their product to labs that aren't up to the state standards. An applicant for a license to grow medical marijuana in Maryland plans to sue a state commission for allegedly failing to consider racial diversity when the panel named the top 15 finalists, a lawyer for the applicant said Tuesday. John Pica, who represents Alternative Medicine Maryland, said the applicant plans to file the suit next week against the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission. PICA said Alternative Medicine wants to stop the panel from taking further action on awarding licenses until it follows a provision in state law requiring diversity to be considered in the process. Alternative Medicine is led by Dr. Greg Daniels, a black physician and businessman. It will be the third lawsuit filed against the commission by would-be marijuana growers in a highly competitive process. Green Thumb Industries and GTI Maryland filed lawsuits this month after they were bumped out of the top 15 by the commission and replaced by two other applicants in order to fulfill geographic diversity stipulations in the law. There were 146 applicants for the 15 licenses the law currently allows. Some New Hampshire medical marijuana patients are waiting more than 40 days before they receive authorization to use cannabis dispensaries. The Concord Monitor reports a backlog of applications at the Department of Health and Human Services means more than 100 identification cards have been approved but haven't been sent to patients. John Martin, chief of the HHS Bureau of Licensing and Certification, says the Bureau isn't complying with the statute that calls for approved patients to receive their cards within 20 days of applying. But Martin says he expects to eliminate the backlog by early October. The New Hampshire Medical Marijuana Program started issuing cards in December and has sent out cards to more than 1,300 patients and approved 65 caregivers. A retired judge appointed by the state Supreme Court to review an Arkansas Medical Marijuana Initiative's petitions as part of a lawsuit said Tuesday that more than enough valid signatures were submitted for the proposal. The lawsuit, filed by Normal Legal Committee lifetime member attorney Kara Banka of Little Rock, sought to disqualify Issue 7, a medical marijuana initiative that includes some cultivation rights for patients, from appearing on the November ballot due to violations of signature gathering regulations. Separately, the Supreme Court said it wouldn't reconsider its decision to reject another lawsuit trying to block the proposal. Retired Judge John B. Robbins said that the report to the court he only disqualified around 2,000 signatures, leaving Issue 7 with more than 7,500 more than they needed. This has been your Cannabis Radio News for Wednesday, September 28th, 2016. I'm Russ Belville.
Forwarding the cause of legalization and research of the growing cannabis industry, one podcast at a time. The Cannabis Radio Network.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Not enough money for schools.
Since we made marijuana legal, our schools are better and our kids have more opportunities.
Crowded courts mean police cannot protect our streets.
The great thing is that here in Colorado, law enforcement is able to focus on the number one priority for all of us, which is preventing violent crime.
Never enough money.
Since the passage of Amendment 64, I have seen an increase in resources for our schools.
It's your turn to regulate marijuana.
This is the Russ Belville Show, annoying Kevin Sabet since 2012.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details.
The world of cannabis is evolving at a frenetic pace. The Russ Belville Show gets behind the headlines to take a deeper look at breaking news in our Cannabis Focus.
Today in the Focus, we take a look at a study that's out, being reported on U.S. News and World Report, that links pot use to relapse in psychosis patients. The study was published on Health Day News, and it was done by researchers at King's College in London. And what they found here, according to the co-author of the study, Dr. Sagnik Bhattacharya, quote, we show that pot use causes an increase in the risk of relapse in psychosis and demonstrate that alternative explanations are unlikely to be true, end quote. He further adds, quote, it would be appropriate to at least aim for reduction in pot use in patients with psychosis if complete abstinence is not realistic, end quote. Now, psychosis, of course, a very serious mental illness, breaks with reality, hallucinations, delusions, struggling to speak and think. And sometimes psychosis is a symptom of a greater mental illness like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or depression. This all from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. BMJ, the British Medical Journal, also published a study that linked pot use and psychosis, giving them higher levels of hospitalization and less response to medications. So there's been a few of these studies recently that have come out. This new one is a study of 220 patients, 18 to 65, first-time psychosis, and then tried to use statistics to figure out what happened if they smoked pot after they were treated. And so they found that the risk to the patients, like the chance they would relapse, go through another psychotic episode, was 13% higher when they used pot than when they did it. And the odds appeared to go up if they used more pot. So they're making the suggestion here that if you have a psychotic break and then you recover, if you smoke pot, you're more likely to have another psychotic break. And the more pot you smoke, the more the chances go up that you will. They don't say how or why. They just say that's what they find statistically. Now, our own Dr. Mitch Earlywine is quoted in the piece as well. And he says that the study, quote, suffers from most of the problems that plague a lot of the human research on cannabis and psychosis, end quote, particularly that there's no controls. We don't randomly assign half of the patients, the first-time psychotics. We don't assign half of them to smoke pot and then another half of them to not smoke pot and then compare the two halves. What's happening here is the people that had psychotic breaks then go on to use marijuana and then have another psychotic break. We can't show a causality there. It could be that the people who have a psychotic break, when they feel a relapse coming, it leads to a craving for marijuana, right? Like the psychotic break was coming anyway, but then you wanted to smoke some pot. That's what Dr. Mitch had here. In all likelihood, those who notice a need for cannabis earlier might be the same ones who are more likely to have another psychotic break, whether they had cannabis or not. The tendency to be a relapser may be linked to a tendency to like pot. So we can't show a causation here. Also, Dr. Mitch points out that the risks that we're talking here were, quote, ridiculously small, end quote. Now, the researcher here on this lead researcher, co-researcher, disagrees with Dr. Mitch, of course, says that the extra risk persisted even after they compensated for the numbers of psychotic patients who stopped taking their medications or whether or not they used any other illegal drugs. It's very interesting. Now, this is you can find this in the Journal of the American Medical Association's Psychiatry Journal. And as far as the results of this go, whether or not cannabis leads to a higher risk of relapse, I think generally speaking, it's a good idea to warn people who have any sort of problem with mental illness, perhaps to avoid using cannabis. But we also have some that will attest to using cannabis as a way to mitigate their psychotic symptoms or to deal with the schizophrenia they might suffer. There's so much that's intertwined in this particular malady that we can't really know for sure what's going on here. But it does feel a little bit like scaremongering. But to be on the safe side, if you're having a psychotic break, maybe it's time to leave the bong alone for a little bit. Maybe it's time to get grounded and be in touch with reality before we start altering reality. The mind is a precious thing, and we want to make sure that we have as much mental health as possible and also as marijuana advocates, we can't just dismiss the possibility that there may be some harms from this.
I drank beer heavily and tried drugs enthusiastically.
There's a tendency to want to dismiss any of these studies that supposedly show a harm, but we should open our minds and look deeply and honestly at these things. Whether or not marijuana may have some harms for a few people is no reason to ban its use for all people.
Next to THC and CBD, you can now add CBR to your cannabis vernacular. CBR as in CannabisRadio.com.
Mindful of sustainable practices and limiting their environmental footprint, Sansal hemp is always grown outdoors, as nature intended. By starting with uniform genetic profiles, Sansal ensures the plant will maintain its optimal performance and yield consistently throughout its life cycle. It is through innovative processes that Sansal is able to achieve pure whole hemp extracts and meet industry requirements and the level of quality desired by many of their customers. Healthy plants, healthy people. SansalCBD.com. Improve your lifestyle naturally.
I'm Radical Russ from the Russ Belville Show. Good day, everybody. Radical Russ here in Aspen, Colorado at the Alaska Northwest Cannabis Classic, at the 26th Annual Boston Freedom Rally, at the High Times Cannabis Cup, Northern California, Day 1 of CannaCon in Seattle, Washington. It's the Russ Belville Show, the NPR of POT, weekdays live at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, exclusively on CannabisRadio.com.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your cannabis boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your cannabis needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit CannabisFinanceBootCamp.com.
Promoting the end of adult cannabis prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It's even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more on this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Today we take a look at a report that's out from Green Wave Advisors. It's entitled Mid-Year Update, The Metamorphosis of the U.S. Marijuana Market Begins. And it's been reported on. People have been citing the upcoming election and Green Wave pointing out that if the states pass their legalization, that the marijuana market could be a $5.8 billion industry by the year 2021. But buried also within this report is actually, I shouldn't say buried because it's the main part of the report. The news media have buried this a little bit. Is this metamorphosis they talk about? And let me just read to you from their description paragraph in the executive summary. In this report, we note the beginning of what we characterize as a marijuana market metamorphosis, as states with both legalized medical and recreational use evaluate the practicality of a merged regulatory regime. We see this effort presently in Washington, Oregon, and Alaska, and expect that Colorado will soon follow. This trend is consistent with our thesis that initially bifurcated marijuana markets will merge under a shared regulatory system into substantially larger enterprises. Should California vote to legalize recreational use this November, we expect implementation of a combined regulated market as soon as 2018. This could serve as a catalyst for similar action in Nevada, Arizona, Massachusetts, and Maine. So, in a nutshell, you can't pass legalization without affecting medical marijuana. And it doesn't matter what you write in your initiative. It doesn't matter how you want to try and wish and hope that you can keep two separate systems running, the laws of economics and bureaucracy and many others dictate that you are not going to have two separate regimes for one product. It's just not going to happen. It's not like having an orange juice stand for people who like orange juice and another one for people who have scurvy. It's not going to happen. So these markets are going to merge. There's going to be one regulatory scheme that covers marijuana in your state, both medical and recreational. The question is, to what degree do they recognize the medical needs within that system? And that's where we need to start focusing instead of trying in vain, tilting at windmills to try to keep two separate systems, redundant and wasteful. And there's some data backing this up. Forbes magazine has done a report on this. Retail marijuana could hurt medical marijuana. This is out just this morning. And they note that patient counts in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, D.C. have all decreased since legalization. Now, Washington State didn't have a count, and Alaska's not really counting very well, so we don't know much about those. But the three we can tell you data from, we know that those three states that have legalized, their patient counts have gone down. And they wrote, quote, though Arizona permits only medical use, new cardholder applications were down sharply, 73% in May, perhaps in anticipation of a favorable election outcome for recreational use, end quote. Another thing that we're seeing is that the people that are registering for chronic pain in these states is down more than, relatively speaking, the other maladies that they can register for, suggesting again that many people that were getting medical marijuana were citing chronic pain when they were just using it to get into the recreational use. And we also noticed that sales for recreational use spike in December, the summer, and 420. But they don't spike in the medical. Those spikes that used to exist in medical have decreased in comparison. Now, this isn't to say that everybody that's, faking it to get medical marijuana, it's only some, but given that those people now don't have to, in Oregon, go get a $200 card or go see a doctor and pay a bunch of money there, and instead can just be over the age of 21 and go into a store, it's naturally going to lead to a decrease in the patient rolls. There's no point in getting that anymore. Another thing that is important to note is that the forecasts here of Greenwave in their report, their prediction is what we'll see is this merged market with what they call medically endorsed dispensaries. This is what the model that's shaking out right now in Washington State, where they're all I-502 stores, but you can go the extra mile and get yourself a medical certification, and that allows you to be able to discount the tax for medical purchases and to offer medical advice on cannabis. Not the most elegant solution. I think it's dumb that you can't tell a recreational consumer how the drug he is about to consume might affect him, but you can tell a sick person. Still, it's the direction that we're going to be going here. And just not only is it the economic and the redundancy reasons, bureaucracy-wise, where you're not going to have a state that's going to have two separate regulatory systems and two separate agencies and so forth, but also from the practicality standpoint for us consumers. If you have two different systems, you're splitting the system up and guaranteeing that it's going to affect one side or the other in a negative way. For example, if there's a rule that says a pot shop and a dispensary have to be 1,000 feet from each other, and the dispensaries already exist in the best locations, that forces the pot shops to be way the hell outside in the industrial area of town, and it gives it's inconvenient for the recreational consumer. On the other hand, if all the dispensaries have to be converted to pot shops and only a few of them get medical endorsements and they're way the hell out of town, now it's inconvenient for the medical consumer. So we got a lot of work to do here, but let's not kid ourselves and think that we can solve this problem or solve these problems through segregation.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Keep your cannabis cravings under control. Feed your mind with CannabisRadio.com.
The cannabis industry is growing, business is booming, and as new opportunities arise in newly legalized states, each market is getting more competitive. Today, it takes more than just being a good grower. Do you have the resources to market and handle this ever-changing business landscape? Let Canna Management Corporation help you grow your canna business with our vast resources and experience to make your business a fully functional service company. Financial management, HR, sales, marketing, efficiency, and more. CMC has the experience and the expertise to improve your business and help you better meet the demands of your clients and customers. Call Canna Management Corporation and let our team get you ready to grow. 415-269-8015. That's 415-269-8015. Or visit canna-management.com.
You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com, where we don't change our mind on decriminalization during an election year.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
You're listening to Cannabis Radio News' exclusive coverage of Vote 2016, The Path to Cannabis Freedom, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to our exclusive coverage of Marijuana Election Night 2016. And joining us today to talk about another state looking to legalize adult use and cultivation of cannabis is the great state of Maine, and that's David Boyer joining us from the Regulate Maine campaign. Hi, David. How are you? Oh, let's see. Let's get David online. Make sure we got him there. David, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. I had.
My apologies. Not sure what happened.
Nope, that's all my fault. But glad to have you here, calling in from Maine, where question 1 is on the ballot to legalize marijuana. Let's give our listeners a quick overview of what will become legal after November 8th.
Sure. Currently in Maine, it's illegal to use and possess marijuana if you're an adult 21 or older. If question 1 is to pass, then all adults 21 and over will be able to possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana and be able to grow a limited number of plants at home and possess the marijuana that yields. It will also set up a system of regulation and taxation that will allow for commercial cultivators, product manufacturers, laboratories, retailers, and social clubs, which we're excited about since we'll be one of the first states to have social clubs included in its legalization initiative, so that adults that choose to use marijuana over alcohol have a place they can do it and socialize in private.
I love that Maine has tackled the issue of adult social clubs explicitly. The other 4 states on the ballot have some implicit, we'll get around to it kind of stuff. But this one, there's going to be some pot lounges, and we're pretty excited about that. And in another aspect that you differ from the other states, the current ones and the ones that are proposing 2016, is that possession limit of 2.5 ounces. Why did you increase it to 2.5 when everybody else was going for an ounce?
Well, Maine has a long history of marijuana reform. We decriminalized marijuana in 1976 so 40 years ago, and that was has been expanded up to 2.5 ounces. That's the limit for medical marijuana. So we thought it made sense to have a consistent number between what's allowed for medical, what's been decriminalized, so that it's easier for consumers and it's easier for law enforcement. And regarding social clubs, this was a calculus of making sure, one, and this could pass, and we're looking at national momentum, and we decided that we should go for it because at the end of the day, this could be the most restrictive legalization, but we could make 1 gram legal, and that's it, right? Is the opposition going to say anything different? No, they're going to talk about the kids and the driving. So, you know what? We got the facts on our side, and we should go for it.
Yeah, how is a guy with 2.5 ounces on him any more a problem than a guy with 1 ounce, I guess is a way you could put it?
The last 4 years we've been in the state working in Portland and South Portland, making marijuana legal there. And a lot of the time our message has been that marijuana is safer than alcohol. And so there isn't a limit on how much wine you can have in your cellar. So I expect, once this is legal, once the sky hasn't fallen, hasn't fallen in Colorado or the other states, that, some of the laws will loosen up and maybe the possession limit will be expanded. Because, again, you can buy enough Jack Daniels to kill a man, but you can't do that with marijuana.
Yeah, good point. And also within the initiative, I see cultivation rights that are pretty expansive. Not only possessing the entire harvest of what you grow, but being able to grow 6 mature plants, 12 immature plants, and unlimited seedlings, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty expansive.
Yeah, that also mirrors the current medical marijuana laws. And it hasn't seemed to affect our support. There was a UNH Press Herald poll that came out last Monday, 2 days ago, showing us at 53% and the no side at 38% with 10% undecided. So we're feeling pretty good based on that poll and internal polling that, even if every undecided person went against us, we'd still be up, with a 6-point lead. So our TV starts next week, and we're excited. Signs are out all over the state, so we're pumped up and cautiously optimistic for victory in November.
Yeah, we are so looking forward to November 8th. We'll be bringing live coverage of Marijuana Election Night 2016 right here live on CannabisRadio.com. Tune in starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go all the way through midnight Eastern because we got to get all those West Coast polls taken care of as well. Now, David, if there's listeners out there that want to get more information on the initiative and maybe want to volunteer and help the campaign, can you give them some contact info?
You can call me at 207-274-4633. That's my cell phone number. If you're in Maine, please get in touch. We can put you to work. If you're not in Maine, please go to www.regulatemane.org and sign up and get on our email list there. And you can also donate. It's really important that we have enough money to get our message out all the way through November 8th. We can pay for digital advertising, radio advertising, paid phone calls to voters to get out the vote. So we need people to step up. Even if you're not a Mainer, this is going to help the laws in your state one way or the other, because this is a domino effect. This is how we do it at the federal level, is asserting their rights.
Absolutely. And with Maine on the ballot and Massachusetts as well, we could be starting a foothold there in the Northeast. You'll have New Hampshire surrounded, I think.
That's right. They're maybe a decade behind everyone else in New England. Not to say that it hasn't been tried. Matt Simon in New Hampshire has just been there forever going at it, and it's the governor that won't sign it there. Decriminalization, their medical marijuana program is taking a little bit to get up and running. And look, it's hurting their state. They've been hit with the opiate crisis worse than Maine. There's more people dying in New Hampshire from opiates, and that just highlights the study that shows 25% less overdose deaths in states that have medical marijuana laws. So hopefully they'll get the act together once Vermont and Maine and Massachusetts starts regulating marijuana. They'll see the benefits of it.
Speaking of governors, you've got a real interesting one there, Governor LePage in Maine. I suppose he's probably opposed to this. What is the nature of your opposition out there politically and financially? Have they got any resources?
Well, it's your classic case of the Baptists and the bootleggers, those that think marijuana is far too harmful for adults to possess, and those that don't want to give up the monopoly on selling marijuana. So you have the law enforcement, you have some folks in the substance abuse treatment community, and that's really one of the biggest disappointments. We expect the other opposition, but those that are working on addiction, working on substance abuse treatment, this is such an obviously way to reduce harm. This is a clear example of a harm reduction policy to what we have now, giving Mainers a safer alternative to prescription pills, to alcohol. To keep the current model, it boggles my mind if you're coming from that background.
Yeah. So are they financed? Are they organized? Or is it just kind of ad hoc every now and then an op-ed in the paper?
I don't want to jinx it, but it seems like they don't have very much money. I think they just hired maybe one organizer. We don't see any signs out quite yet, but there's still 6 weeks to go. And, they're on TV. Anytime the news, covers us, they have to cover the other side. So they will have some of a bully pulpit and a podium, if you will, to get their message out that this is going to increase DUIs and this is going to increase children's access. But thankfully, we've done a good job at educating the press here, and now that they're mentioning in the stories that Colorado hasn't seen teen use go up, as if it's fact. They don't even have to quote me saying it anymore, which is great. It's background. And it's just, it's obvious that it hasn't affected Colorado. It hasn't affected Maine. Maine has the most, forward-thinking marijuana laws in New England for the longest time. Yet, look, we have the lowest rates of use among teens. So it's just such a falsehood to think that if we regulate marijuana for adults, it's going to increase access for those that are under 21.
David Boyer with Regulate Maine. You can check him out at regulatemaine.org?
That's right.
Yeah, regulatemaine.org. Are there any upcoming events, fundraisers, or campaign watch parties, election night watch parties to promote if people want to plan ahead?
Not currently. We're working. If anybody wants to volunteer, we're going to be around the Cumberland Fair and the Freiburg Fair, which are huge fairs that a lot of people come to in Maine, and even some out of Maine. But we'll be talking to the Mainers. We were just at Common Ground Fair in Unity, Maine, which is the Organic Farming Association puts that together, and I think 60,000 people were there and got out a bunch of lawn signs and stickers. If anybody wants to request a sticker, lawn sign, please go to the website and shoot us an email, and you'll be hearing from us.
All right, Maine question 1, currently polling at about 53%, but let's not rest on our laurels, people. Get involved, get active, tell people you know about it, and if you can volunteer and help out the folks at regulatemaine.org, please do so. David Boyer, thanks for joining us here on the show, and good luck to you on election night.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you. All right. Stay tuned, folks. We got another interview coming up, and want to remind you our marijuana election night coverage 2016 on CannabisRadio.com live election night starting at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, running till 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, with live coverage from the campaign watch parties in all 9 states. Plus, we'll have activist leaders from the major national drug reform groups joining us, and other experts and candidates for office themselves who are longtime marijuana reformers. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
From dabs to chibas, sativas to indicas, we roll out a whole concentrate of fresh new content every week. It's like going from the greenhouse to the dispensary. CannabisRadio.com.
Oh, let the marijuana llama tell you something now about a game for your phone gonna make you say, wow! The game's about the game of growing cannabis for cash. Grow the seed, sell the bud, put the savings in the stash. Little by little, your empire grows large. Put the big celebrities inside your entourage. You can choose to play with Snoop or me or Cheech and Chong. Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Wiz Khalifa with a bong. The name of the game is Hemp Inc., that's the point. Download and play while you light yourself a joint. The business of cannabis should be no crime. Hemp Inc. is even hot-proofed by the man who run High Times. Oh yeah? Get it on Android and iOS today. Marijuana llama out. Got to tend to me own crops, you know. Money don't make itself. Hemp Inc.
The Tommy Chong Show on Cannabis Radio. You got me running. You got me hiding. Run, hide, and hide, run any way you want, let it roll. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got me doing what you want me, baby. Girl, what you want me to do. Shut up and do a podcast, as I want you to do. Oh, that sounds like a good idea.
The Tommy Chung Podcast, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Marijuana is not addictive, but listening to the Russ Belville Show is.
Marijuana legalization is a worldwide phenomenon. Get yourself positioned for the global cannabis marketplace by attending the International Cannabis Business Conference in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. You'll learn from established cannabis professionals, elected officials, and internationally recognized marijuana law reform activists. You'll also enjoy the ICBC's famous VIP party featuring ICBC special guest speaker and Canadian native Tommy Chong. The ICBC is happening in Vancouver on Thursday and Friday, October 13th and 14th at the Hyatt Regency. Log on to internationalcbc.com today to reserve your tickets. That's internationalcbc.com and bookmark our page for the next ICBCs taking place in Berlin, Germany and San Francisco, California. Don't miss the International Cannabis Business Conference, internationalcbc.com. Mark Twain once said that when there's a gold rush, it's a good time to be in the pick and shovel business. Today, we look at the rapidly evolving markets in the marijuana green rush in our Cannabusiness Chronicles. Welcome back, everybody, to Cannabusiness Chronicles segment. And joining us today, we've got David Deinenberg, the CEO of Kind Financial. David, welcome to the show.
Hey, Russ. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. And I hope I got your last name pronounced correctly. Is it Deinenberg?
It's close enough. It's Dinenberg, but you can call me whatever you want. That's fine.
No. As a guy named Belville, who always gets called Bellevue, it's a sticking point for me. So Dinenberg, much better. All right.
Dinenberg.
Thanks for joining us, and tell our listeners a little bit about Kind Financial.
Sure. Kind Financial is a full-service cannabis compliance technology company. We provide seed-to-sale software for both the industry as well as for governments. We provide cash management solutions, and we're partners in a company called Link to Banking, which provides banking consulting and technology that enables banks to work with the cannabis industry.
And this has been a big problem for the developing industry, both in recreational and legalized states, is that, of course, the federal government still says it's an illegal drug, and banks can't deal with illegal drug business, and cannabis is illegal drug. And how is this? How are you guys managing to solve this problem?
Sure. Well, I think that if we all read the headlines and if we all, read the articles that are written in this industry, that a lot of us wouldn't be doing anything every day. I think, a really important part is there's a lot of misinformation out there, Russ, and here's the reality. The reality of it is that the federal government, through the top cop being the Attorney General, as well as FinCEN, which is a division of Treasury which deals with financial crimes, have both set forth memos in 2013 and 2014, known as the Cole Memo and the FinCEN Memo, that, gives law enforcement the directive of leaving state-sponsored state programs alone, as long as everyone's following state law. And then as far as money goes, FinCEN has sent out these memos as far as ways and outlines targets that very clearly state how financial institutions can work with the cannabis industry. The one thing that hasn't taken place, as we all are well aware, is that there's no law. The laws haven't changed. And really, those memos both obviously reserve the right for the federal prosecutors to do ultimately what they need to do. So, banks are in the business of mitigating risk. That's what a banker does every day of their lives. And I think one of the misnomers in this space, especially in the banking space, is that, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to adhere to the FinCEN guidelines. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true, that we have a compliance piece of software that automates and streamlines the process for banks. So, if you do things the right way, and if we all educate ourselves on what we can and can't do, I think that a lot of banks will learn that you can bank cannabis. Is there a higher level of diligence? Is there a higher level of reporting? The short answer is yes, but the longer answer is it can be done. It can be done today, and we have the tools that are doing it.
Fantastic. It's almost as if the feds are making, through these memos, it's like making a promise. We promise we won't bust you, and the banks are saying, sure, write it down.
Right, exactly. I mean, listen, until laws changed, you're going to have all these banks, or a lot of the banks sitting on the sidelines. I also think that the misnomer in the industry is the day that banking law changes is the day that you can go to Wells Fargo or Chase or wherever you bank and open an account.
Don't worry. Wells Fargo will open the account for you, so that's okay. Wells Fargo will do it for you.
Well, touche on that one. But the reality of it is, even if law changes tomorrow at the federal level, even if the law just changes for the banking laws just changed, the reality of it is there's going to be years of processes and procedures and guidance that are going to take place that are going to outline the way that the banks can work with the industry. So there is no short-term fast fix for banking as far as what everyone wants to have. There's no magic wand, right? But there are services out there, including the service that we offered, that do allow these banks to do it and to do it safely and securely.
That is great news for a lot of our listeners that are wanting to get involved with their own cannabis-based business. We're speaking with David Dinnenberg from Kind Financial. Give them a link or some more information for contact so they can follow up on that.
Sure, absolutely. Kind.financial is our website, and linktobanking.com is our Link to Banking website.
Fantastic. Now, other issues involved in regulatory compliance. You mentioned seed to sale, and we just covered the Green Wave Advisors report that talked about how medical and recreational markets may merge or will likely merge in the future. How are you set up to help customers with seed to sale and the rapidly changing regulatory scheme if indeed these two sides merge?
Sure. Well, let's start at the top. So we have a product which we call AgriSoft, which is a seed-to-sale technology that was built 100% for this industry. What's unique about Kind is our approach to how we do our solutions, right? We do not bring any Band-Aids to the industry. We only bring true legitimate products and services to this industry. So anything that you ever see under, my banner that we're offering, it's a true solution. There's no end arounds. That's not who we are. We took the approach when we developed our seed-to-sale software. We really took the approach from law enforcement and from regulatory bodies. So we have people in our team that have that state and federal experience that have guided our hands in developing the most robust compliance software that there is. And, I'm being very serious when I say that. And a lot of people might not love that, right? If you are in the industry and you're concerned about this or concerned about that, the reality of it is our system is custom made for this industry. We can make customizations for our clients on the fly. Our customer service is second to none. And quite frankly, as we all read in June, Microsoft chose us to partner with in delivering our services. So we have a very robust platform, and we're really excited for to offer to the industry.
Yeah, and that story on the Microsoft choosing Kind Financial was a very compelling story. In that we saw this big tech giant dipping its toes into the water here into the this quasi-legal side of the world that, well, increasingly legal side of the world. What's that been like trying to work with Microsoft, and what sort of concerns did they have getting involved?
Yeah, well, with all due respect, I can't go through the details of it. A lot of the things that that are between Microsoft and I need to stay between Microsoft and I. But I'll tell you this: Microsoft is already fundamental. They're already in the government business. They're already in the government sector. The government they consider to be a quote unquote client. And at the end of the day, they wanted the ability to be able to offer their clients everything that they need to be able to be offered. So. I'm just the beneficiary of having a great product that filled a void in the Microsoft system, and they've been wonderful to work with. They're very bullish on what we're doing. They look at it where if the states are legalizing this, and therefore it's legal for their customer, and they want to be able to support their customers.
Folks, you can find out more.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Russ, go ahead.
I was just going to say they could find out more about this regulatory compliance software, the financial angle, banking. Go to kind.financial to learn more. And sorry about interrupting. You were saying?
No, I was going to say, and I think it was, for a company in this industry, it was incredibly legitimizing and proud moment for us as a company. But it was also a great day for the industry, where I think the legitimacy of what everyone here is trying to accomplish, I think everyone took a lot of pride in that announcement, and they should.
Oh, absolutely. And David, we appreciate what you're doing and the company you're building there to help our industry maintain this compliance. We're stepping out here. We want to put our best foot forward and not give our opponents an excuse to say, see, we legalized, and look at the terrible things that happened. So again, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
On a personal level, what's your background getting into this space? Was cannabis always a part of your life, or is this like, oh my God, this is all new to me?
A little bit of both. I live in Los Angeles now. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I moved out here. My family and I, our kids were young at that point, and my wife and I took the leap of faith, and we moved to Los Angeles in the summer of 14, and we did it the summer of 13, and we did it to start this company and to start this business. To be honest with you, I'm an old real estate developer. I have a sophisticated background. From raising money to building buildings to borrowing money, all those different sophistications that you need to do to do big business. But, I was looking for something different. We had a hard time during the real estate crash. We lost a lot. We were starting over. And really, we were watching a television program one night, and, if you would have coughed, you would have missed the 10 seconds where they said, all cash, no financial structure, no backbone. And this whole thing really started as a research project for my wife and I, and it's grown into what it's grown into today. And at the end of the day, the one thing that, Russ, that I have realized over the last 2.5, 3 years, every heavily regulated industry in the country, quite frankly, the world, look at it. Look at pharmaceutical, look at alcohol, look at tobacco, look at guns. At the core of those businesses or industries, it's compliance. And, I just hope it's something that this industry, as it grows and becomes more sophisticated, as well as, we go from 23 to 25, and hopefully after November we go to 26 states, we're going to have to be able to be compliant. That's the only way this industry is going to become serious and legitimate and, quite frankly, widespread, if not federally legal at some point. So, I would like to believe that we're helping and moving this industry in a forward-fashion way.
Excellent. Thank you, David Denenberg, CEO of Kind Financial. You can find out more on the net at kind.financial. Thanks for joining us, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And folks, that's all the time we got for our show today, but stay tuned. Hour 2 is coming up next. That's our Toker Talk Radio Hour, where you can be the voice of the Marijuana Nation. Our phone line is 650-LEGAL-MJ, 650-534-2565. We're going to talk a lot about guns and weed. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com, I'm Radical Russ. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant